friends, welcome back to yet another episode of Vision to Vibe, the show where we bring you the business behind events, moments, and experiences, whether it's the creative leads, the coaches, the advisors, the executives that came up with the vision, the production staff, the producers, the entertainers who brought you the vibe. It's all here, folks. And I'm here with Ginger Henderson, actually a colleague of mine indirectly through one of HubSpot's leading solutions partners over at Impact. Both Ginger and I had the privilege of working on that great organization. And we forged a partnership, a collaboration, if you will, over the last several months through folks that we met through that industry and through that space. Ginger, and I came to know you. I'm like, this person loves good content, good marketing. She's also an entrepreneur like myself. She's a coach and an advisor to folks around doing marketing, especially when it comes to content and messaging and
AI.
And AI, my friends. AI, of course, how it all comes together. So, Ginger, maybe you can just tell folks a little bit about how did you get into the space that you're in right now? Like just a little bit of what brought you here that you think that folks might need to know about you, and maybe what's a superpower you think that you bring as you've entered into the space?
I like that question. My story is a little unique. My husband was military, and so I found marketing and business while staying at home with the kids and working remote and finding blogging and writing and how people connected to a business through the content that they shared, the images that they chose, the stories that they were telling on social media. And so I fell in love with it and I got my degrees in it and I kept saying yes to any and every opportunity, which led me into business coaching and marketing and strategy. My superpower is AI, though, and seeing that it can take businesses so much farther than any other thing that they could do right now, just by implementing it in a way that nobody else is willing to do or hasn't thought of. And the more businesses that I see do that, the more revenue, the more opportunities, the better employees that they can hire. Mm-hmm. People want to apply to those businesses that are leading in marketing. And so AI, superpower.
Yes, Ginger. And I want you to go a little bit further on yourself in that, sure, business owners know about AI, right? They've heard about these stories. What is it that made you excited to go, no, but they're going to need someone like me to assist them? What is the barrier or the gap that you're seeing between businesses that know AI is out there? They know they should be adopting it in some responsible, reasonable, proportional way. What made you go, but here's how I can help them?
Nobody is tracking the metrics. They're throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping it sticks. They don't understand that just like SEO, you can't just hope that writing some content is going to help you rank on Google. It's the same with AI. Writing content is not the same as actually showing up for that content. And that is the gap that businesses are not filling yet. And so if you can just have somebody own that and track those KPIs and report on them, you will be a cut above the rest.
So that's why when you were giving me some advice about even my own content strategy, what I'm doing here behind this show and so on, you said, give me access to your Google Analytics. I'm like, I'm talking about podcasting here. What? Like, I'm talking about social media. You want my Google Analytics? Of course, because you look at that data. You want to start with foundational. What are the signals showing us? Where are we at benchmark wise? Where are the sources? Where are the channels? And how can you improve those? That type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Data never lies.
Data never lies.
It's traditional marketing. It's just a different metric that you're looking at.
So what are some of the things that you'd like to help business owners do? When you help them go to market, you're helping them use AI, you're helping them create content, you're helping them create a vibe around their brand, their messaging, their various channels where that's coming out. What are some of the plays, I just said it, channels or formats you like to work with people around, Ginger?
Social media is a big one. I think a lot of business owners are still stuck in, if you're on social, you just want to be an influencer, and they miss what a huge driver of growth it can be for a business. And so I really like to dig into a business owner's goals, their audience, where should they be on to reach their ideal client. So somebody in a custom concrete industry is not going to want to be on TikTok. Their audience is not showing up there. But somebody like us, we could totally be on TikTok and crush it. And so you have to really think about where your people are and how do you reach them. But, and this is what I want your listeners to know too, in July, Instagram rolled out that they are now searchable on Google. So an SEO strategy on Instagram goes beyond what your typical social media strategy would and allows you to show up on Google in places you normally wouldn't be able to compete.
Mm.
So use
So you're
Google or use Instagram.
So you're talking about strategy. Sometimes business owners, on the one hand, you're like, I don't want business owners spending their valuable calories in channels where, in general, their market is just not going for that source of information. There's not even really that present in those channels yet, as far as we can tell on average. And yet, you are helping business owners keep up with the times that certain channels, whether they think that's where their next customer is going to be obsessing about them or not, they're important credibility signals. They're being fed into what platforms people use to make recommendations. So you might help them make smart decisions about invest here, even though it might seem like your audience not there today, but Google's watching you be there. And your audience is going to be using Google or Gemini and things like that. And you need to be here for the credibility to show up in those other places where you do need to show up. You help them with those type of cost benefit analysis type stuff?
Yeah, and you have to do that with every channel. And in order to do that, you have to really stay up to date on what is going on with the different algorithms. So we now have Instagram that you can be found on Google with, but you also have YouTube that AI is pulling in. You have Reddit that AI loves to pull in. And so we have to look at all the different channels in a completely different way than we even did a year ago, which
What are the
makes social media really exciting.
This is exciting, and I'm glad to speak to someone like you who I feel gets me, and I get why you can help companies in this way with your ability to communicate your confidence around these harnessing these trends you're seeing in the data. But what about the business owners themselves? There's so many businesses that could benefit from these trends like you're describing, but there's a culture shift
Yeah.
technologically, let alone culturally. People saying, whoa, I'm going to be on camera in a way that people could be looking at it beyond my control, beyond my understanding. How do you pick your battles there? Ginger, you're already telling them you need to be on Instagram, which may be like, we what? You've never been on Instagram. And then, oh yeah, you got to be filming yourself often and then putting it on this social media. Like, how do you pick those battles? Is it about picking the right business that's already on its way there? Is it about picking the business that has the highest potential, if only they could get on their way? How do you decide, knowing that you've got a couple of battles to fight there culturally, depending on the business?
Mm. That's a really good question. I find that most people, when you show them the numbers and you talk through experiences, find a way to push past that barrier and the wall of just like the fear of doing it. That one of my clients was terrified of being on camera. He was so uncomfortable and awkward the first couple of weeks. And we just kept saying, hey, you're going to push through it. It will get easier and better, and the results will pay off. And they are. His YouTube is growing. He's showing up on AI search results and getting more revenue in the door. And all because he was able to push through that. And so you can connect those people. I'll connect clients with other clients so that they can share experiences with each other, but having a really good coach in your corner to help encourage you and push you. And you know that they're not going to waste your time doing something that's not going to pay off really helps. I also say watch the data, because we can try something for a while. We can say, hey, if we don't hit X in 6 months, we might just drop it. I don't like doing it. It's not paying off. And you have to be okay with saying it didn't work, but we tried it. And that does happen sometimes.
Yeah. So I'm hearing, when you bring the right data, that if you are willing to invest X, many businesses like you can expect Y. A lot of these people that I and others might assume on the face of it is they've never done something like that before. They're running this big business. They're thinking about revenue. Well, you show them how it can impact revenue, retention, satisfaction, reputation. And you're finding most business owners are like, well, then let's figure this out. The other catch though is, well, who's going to be there with me to show me how to get through the potential minefield of time wasting, pick the wrong platform, pick the wrong format, whatever, pick the wrong team. A coach or advisor to say, I'll be there with you to help you figure out how you uniquely get there. That's a pretty compelling case to be made, I suppose. So, and you've proven that out. So next question to you is, well, then how should they do it once you're advising and guiding them? What's your opinion about building capabilities internally, hire your own internal video folks, cross-train your own sales reps to be on camera and so on, versus bringing in specialists, influencers, agencies from the outside? How do you decide if it's one or the other or a combination of the two over time?
It is a really nuanced approach. Everybody needs something a little bit different.
Yeah.
So people who are too busy, traveling too much, they cannot sit down and film. Let's get some salespeople. Anybody who's client facing is great to get on camera. It helps build that trust with the audience. Influencers are really good if you have a business that sells a product. and you need to get that out. Let's
Mhm.
get the influencers in there. I work with somebody who sells an ankle conditioning tool, and they need to get in front of people. So we need to get the athletes. We need to
Mhm.
get with the larger TikTok followings for, wellness, and we need to have them show that product. So
Right.
it is a really nuanced approach as to who we need on camera, and we look at each business individually.
Mhm.
Internally, building a marketing team that you trust to make those calls for you is key as you're growing. Some people are too small to have a full marketing team, which is why they work with someone like me, or they need somebody who's got a little higher level experience than just a content manager, for example.
Right.
So that's why you would hire me to build that out. But also having that marketing team in place that you can lean on for ideas, what platforms, and trust that they're not wasting your time, they're reporting on the right metrics. That's going to be key to your growing and scaling without stress, without wasting time and money.
Excellent. Whoever they end up hiring, whether it's you as an advisor, somebody else internally as a leader, oftentimes businesses, when they think about influence, are thinking about buying it, renting it from somebody, and it usually comes in the form of sponsorships, right? Sponsorships of trade shows, events. These are the traditional forms of renting and buying influence.
Mhm.
I'm going to get an ad in this newsletter, perhaps. Where do you think the rather traditional approach of sponsorships, which is still very much alive and well today in podcasting, on YouTube, and everything else, when and where does that fit into a strategy like this? You've got the business owner on board with you. Yes, you're going to advise them. They've got content they want to create. They're willing to put budget behind spreading it around and getting other folks in their target niches to notice it. What and where? When does the sponsorship conversation come in, and what should they be thinking about sponsoring?
Yeah, I think we can use organic to get a sense of what works, what messaging resonates with your audience, what graphics, what vibe, right? How do we test that organically before we're throwing some money at it? Once we
Mm.
find what works, then we bring in the ads, we bring in the sponsorships, we bring in the paid materials behind our brand. But I always start organic first.
I like that a lot because we have to have something worth amplifying. We have to have a message worth melding with some other brand or forum or audience, right? If we don't truly know organically what the heck we're talking about and why we appeal to anybody, we don't really have much of a business trying to get in with other people who already have earned that trust and that
Mhm.
authority with others. I think you and I have also seen it being in the business for many years and have overlapped at different companies. Sometimes you bring that sponsor in and they are totally tone deaf to what's going
Yep.
on in the rest of the experience or the content or the event.
Yep.
And then everybody goes, what the heck was that? That felt salesy. That kind of put a bad taste in my mouth about this whole thing. So I
Or
think it's
even the
about,
music at events too, right? Like
Mhm.
that really makes a difference knowing your audience and that maybe they don't want Taylor Swift blasting, they
Mhm.
want Metallica. Like you have to understand the room. It's music, it's the content that you're sharing, it's right down to the tagline and the messages that you use at the events.
Now we're
So
talking. Yeah.
now we're talking.
Now
It's
we're in
all
our,
the
yeah.
details.
Now we're in my territory. Let's talk about that because
Good.
before the show, you and I were saying that you've had some experience in going to market with different clients and working with other successful entrepreneurs and helping them amplify their message. That events has been a part of that. And I said that would be
Yeah.
great for the show, being Vision to Vibe. Like, what's an event that came to mind for you that you can share with our audience members here about how you and a client or an employer, whatever it might have been, went from a vision of something you wanted to pull off from an experience and event wise and went from a vibe. And then let's talk about, throughout the things that I'm very passionate about is, the music, that vibe portion of it and how you got everybody aligned around that. So can you tell us a bit of a story about an
Yeah.
event that you pulled off?
I would love to. So, one of my past employers back in the day had this idea that they were going to have an event and we were going to sell people from the event into their business coaching program. And it was kind of a huge lift, a huge task because we're taking women who had a dream, but they didn't have a business yet. And we're
Mhm.
asking them to spend a lot of money when you
Right.
aren't actually making revenue yet. And
Yeah.
so we put together this incredible event. It started with the tagline, Dreams Don't Happen by Chance, that I wrote, and that went on everything.
Hmm.
And it started to get people's gears turning. It started to
Hmm.
get them excited. Okay, I do have to put in work. I do have to invest in it. I do have to believe in it enough to make this thing happen. Then
Yeah.
we gathered all the right speakers. the women in their community that spoke the right language, that vibed with them, that understood their pain points culturally, their experiences as women. How do we get all of those people in the room to really bring up and scale the energy that that tagline started?
Hmm.
And we'll even go backwards. Like, let's take a step back. Before the event, the content that we sent out to market it was that uplifting, you can do it, get yourself in the room, get yourself around the right people. Here's how we've made this happen. Here's how you can make it happen. Getting them to believe in themselves, right? So we're building that vibe before the event even happens.
Yes,
It's
so
in
important.
text. Yeah, it's in text, it's in the videos, it's in the graphics, it's everywhere. We're just building the vibe before the event. Then you get there and you see the tagline, you see all the speakers on stage. Everything starts to come together, the videos, and suddenly we go from this, how the heck are we going to make this happen? Are we even going to make any money? Are we going to go broke off of trying to throw this huge event
A real
to sell?
risk and fear, right?
It
Yeah.
is. It happens. We sold more tickets than she had ever sold to an event before. We sold out her high ticket program and sold more coaching spots than she has ever sold before. We increased it 23% through the marketing and the event that we did and creating the vibe.
Wow. Let's I'm so glad you provided that sort of bird's eye view, like little case study of what happened. Can we go back and talk about some of those moments? Like put us in the room a little bit for okay, we're gonna pull off this event and I want this event. It sounds like this person that you're working with had done events before, but they clearly were charging you to raise the bar a little bit. So what was that
Yes.
conversation like? This person who already has a bit of a track record, maybe even something that they're used to, is coming to you going, I want you, Ginger, to help us level up. Or was it like that? Or did they want you to execute on a
It
common
was
playbook?
exactly like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. She had done events before. This was definitely ended up being the largest one. And
Mm-hmm.
so, similar to what I had said earlier, you have to have trust in your marketing team.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I actually had come on contract with her, proven myself, and then she was like, I need you full time. And
Nice.
so, that is how that relationship
Always
started.
great when you get that call.
It was so awesome, and I really appreciated that trust that we had built with each other because it allowed us to do this thing. And then it
Right.
was also internal culture. We all really trusted each other's judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we came up with taglines or we came up with different branding, the names, the speakers, the topics, everybody trusted the process. And we were always bringing it back to the data. How many email opens did we get? Do we need to change the subject lines? How many tickets did we sell this week? If it's more than last, what do we do different? And how do we amplify that? And
So
so,
important. Sorry to jump in, but I just want to call out for
yeah,
the group because you don't think about this enough, that the burn down chart that you're talking about, looking at it week by week, how are we trending towards it? You don't wait to the end and go, oh, did we sell enough? You should know that week by week if you're starting to go off track from your assumptions. If the early bird special didn't yield what you thought it would yield even close, that's where you'd start to adjust, not with 2 weeks to go fire drill. Let's start giving the
do it while
tickets.
you can still pivot.
How about that? So that was important for you to look at that. You had a sort of a weekly cadence or some sort of a chart. You're watching these stats roll out in real time.
I look at things every day.
Yeah.
Whether it's the social post that went out advertising it, the clicks to the website, the email that went out that day, the text that went out, how many people opened that and signed up from there every day. And if you're a full-time marketer, you need to be looking at those things every day, especially when you're doing a huge event.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did to make sure that the traction kept building, the momentum kept building. Whereas, like you were saying, if you wait till the last 2 weeks, then it's like, we're going to sell tickets at 50% off because what else are we going to do to get butts in seats?
Right. Well, as an event facilitator, content maestro extraordinaire, I love to work with people like you to help rally the troops to execute some of these pieces, to lend my charisma to, all right, gang, you heard the charge from Ginger. This is what we need to help execute here. But a big part of where I focus, Ginger, is around the people who are going to come and how we're
Yeah.
going to and I'm talking about the speakers, the presenters, the entertainers, whatever it is, and getting those people to all be sort of singing off the same sheet of music, to all feel like a unified team, even though they all don't normally all work from stage together before, and maybe have never even shared the same stage, talking off the same sort of message to the same audience before. So can you talk a little bit about what was the facilitation experience like from your perspective for that event? Who organized all the speakers, and what was that like for you? What worked well, and what do you wish you had an extra set of hands on?
I'm excited to pull you into this a little bit more now. Now we're going to take your experience into here. So
Let's go.
I believe fully if we had hired somebody with your skill set, we would have seen more sales. And the reason
Mm.
I say that is there were times when the presentation was clunky,
Mm.
when, our on staff director of, we called her director of fun. I don't come up with the terms, y'all. Don't judge that. But
That was the
it
title.
was like,
Hey, nothing wrong with
yeah,
that.
she was customer service. She was fantastic, but she was not an MC. And so there were times where it was just a little bit clunky and
Hmm.
you could feel the momentum fall a little bit because that
Hmm.
was not in her skill set. And
Right.
so I wonder how bringing someone like you in to keep that energy going, to have the transitions feel a little smoother, to have people laughing and engaged rather than like we've been sitting here all day, because that's really tiring
Hmm.
when you don't have somebody keeping up the energy, would have affected sales. And I am certain that we could have had more sales from that.
Well, I think what you highlight in that particular example, Ginger, is there's usually a few different skill sets that will lend it into, all right, this person's going to be the sort of lead facilitator or the master of ceremonies, the person who's going to be sort of narrating and guiding the audience and all the speakers along the common thread of how we wanted people to feel. How do we want people to interpret what's going on here for this big high stakes event?
Yeah.
And there's usually somebody who's around organizing it. There's a very organized person, a person who's a good project manager. And that sounds a little bit like the person you're talking about. That does not automatically mean that person's got stage presence, sales chops,
Hmm.
that type of charisma. And then the second thing is then you have the people with the titles, the founders, the VPs, the C suites, the person who provided the budget and so on. Absolutely appropriate to be hearing from these people because they've got positional authority.
Yeah.
Once again, does not automatically mean that those people want to and seek to be the spokesperson for the event, to be the person commanding the audience, commanding sort of the stage. And sometimes it's not even appropriate. That person should be introduced. They're such a big deal. They deserve a little bit of an introduction. They deserve a little bit of white gloving and handling. And that actually enhances and establishes that person's authority as well. Like not in a petty way, but in a proper way. It puts
Yep.
that authority in the context of the event. And leaves and then that last point is somebody who is an entertainer by nature is going to go after the dead air, go after this is where the disconnect, this is where we might lose control over the vibe, or this is a chance we have to establish a vibe. That was very exciting what you just heard. That was very solemn what you just heard. That was very anticipation building what you just heard. Somebody else needs to back that up. And it can be
Hmm.
done internally and it can be brought in from the outside. But those things are not just, oh, the project manager should do it. Oh, the C suite should do it. There needs to be a designated skill set there. So, but a lot of folks either they make do or people basically put that hat on randomly throughout the event. Yeah,
Yeah.
suddenly
I
the
see the
C
same
suite's
thing
doing
in
it for a
work.
few minutes. Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead,
People are
please.
like, yeah, people who suddenly become marketers find themselves in marketing. It's because they did something else within the organization.
Yes,
But that doesn't make you a marketer. Just like I work in the business, it doesn't mean I can MC for it. You need that special skill.
yeah,
And then watch the data and prove it works, right?
right.
Because again, I never believe in consistently throwing money or time at things that aren't working.
That's
But
right.
darn it, try it once. Get the person that has the skill set that you need to get the growth that your business needs.
Let's talk about, regardless of whether it's being, and we all know, no matter what we just said, it's a team sport. And I think having
Mhm.
somebody playing the important team role of facilitator is all we're trying to say here. You should have that
Yeah.
person and they should be specializing in it. And if they're doing it, now the team is all working together towards driving the common metrics of an event like what you're describing for this client of yours, then full-time employer of yours was trying to achieve. So what are some metrics you look at? I know for me, it's about engagement. It's about people taking us up on the call to action, but there's probably a bunch of key metrics you look at along the way. Do you want to just highlight some of those that are important at the beginning, middle, and end for you around these
Yeah.
types of events?
I think year over year or event over event, did we sell more tickets? How
Mm,
many of those tickets that we sold are repeat tickets? And if
mhm,
we are increasing that, we're doing a really good job at the event
mhm.
specific.
Yes.
The other thing is just having conversations in the room with people and getting a sense for how they're feeling tells me if we made the right call with who is leading the event.
Yes.
And I think that is the most important thing is reading the room, which I know I'm preaching at y'all to check the data, but sometimes there is this connection and feeling, just like in sales calls. How am I doing? How are
Mhm.
you feeling? Let's read the room. You have to have that skill set, which is something that not everyone has. It is a unique talent. And so sometimes you do have to bring somebody in from the outside to say, hey, we've got to pick it up a little bit. We've got to change the music. We've got to dim the lights. We've got to, have a little bit of fun. And
Absolutely.
getting someone who understands that in the room is key. and then sales.
And then
Didn't
sales.
start numbers.
Let's talk about that, if you will. Take us back to this event where you achieved that measurable increase in sales, selling out their VIP, their highest level package. What happened? What methods did you put in place, maybe ahead of the event ending, or certainly things that you did immediately after the event wrapped that helped drive that follow through? Can you tell us about some of that? Because it's often a dropped ball or just a really challenging part of people who try to put on a great vision, bringing it to a vibe, is how do I make sure the follow through, sales does their job, that we drive the revenue, we exploit this
Yeah.
goodwill, we channel it, if you will.
And keep the energy going, right? You don't want to wait 3
Yes.
months and then pitch them again. You want to strike while the iron's hot.
Yes. The event is the blast off into a larger conversation, into a larger community that you're doing here, ideally.
Great question. I made a really good video. I'm not a videographer. I was very proud of this video to help amplify the idea that we had for the business coaching program, for what was possible for everybody in that room. And then after the video, everybody had a chance to come and talk to me about the program. And so I was able to make that one-to-one connection with people and hear their stories. And I could do one-to-one follow-ups for those high-ticket programs. And so we built the trust, we built the excitement. They knew who I was. And so if they weren't ready to close, which many of them were ready to close there, we were able to close in the follow-up and answer some of those questions or concerns, or maybe they needed financing and they had to figure that out. So following up immediately, but building one-to-one connection, whether is through video or through those in-person conversations. No, you're fine.
I'm just so excited because I was like, I want to talk more about the follow-up too, but what did you said in person? This is something I think event folks also, their ears pricked up when you said that. The closing at the event. How did you talk about doing that? Was that always done? Did you do it anything different? Like, how do you approach that? Because I think people find that awkward at the least, how to approach it properly in an effective way.
It is awkward. I think allowing people to come to me instead of me walking around and pitching the concept was very helpful. So we left it, hey, if you're interested in this program, come talk to Ginger. And I stood up. I had been shaking hands at the event for 3 days. So people already knew me, but they were able to approach me. And so their guard's already down, right? When I approach them, it's like, oh God, she's going to try and sell me something. Right. Walls up. I'm tuned out. I'm thinking about what I have to pack for my kids' lunch next week. But when they approach me, they're excited. The energy is there. And I just meet them where they are and ask really thoughtful questions, get to know them. And if they're not a good fit, I also tell them, hey, you don't even know what business you want right now. You probably don't need to be in a high-end mastermind program for it. Yeah. So here's what you need to do. Let's follow up. I'll give you some advice. We'll check back next year. And I think when people see that, here's the other fun thing about live events. They tell their friends and their seat partners, hey, she was actually really honest and said this wouldn't even work for me. And it just continues to build that trust in the room so that when I talk to people, it's much easier to close.
That's an interesting point you raised. First of all, thank you for sharing that with me. And I believe everybody can hear what you just said and say, we can do that, right? That's a very low pressure. Somebody from stage says, you have an amazing piece of content. That's what Ginger just told you. A great, powerful video that really puts a lot of emotion and a lot of why behind your pitch, if you will. You make your offer and then you point out, here's where you go to access it if you're interested, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Oh gosh, where did my thought process go? But you mentioned in that conversation that rightly so, and any of us who've succeeded at content and attracting an audience at scale will see this, is that many of the people just aren't really qualified for your main offering. They're just not a good fit yet. And yet you really appreciate their participation. You need them to be part of the community. You want them as a fan. And you and I worked at an agency at Impact that had a massive following, a huge community, and lots of people who would knock on our door. And I was in sales, as you know, and I talked to a lot of these people. What was the thought process, or have you seen over the years, whether it's this particular story or other anecdotes that remind you of it, how do you deal with those people? What's a good way to harness and channel their enthusiasm, a way that doesn't let them down and doesn't just automatically let them just fade away because they're not a good fit to buy right now, even though they're a fan? What do we do?
I think you build on their enthusiasm. You offer them immense value. So whenever I create content, whether it's for social media or a podcast or email or events, I want it to provide immense value. I don't think people should have to pay for everything. You know, I want to be there for the people that can't afford my services and move them through the funnel to a place where they can.
Mhm.
And by giving really good marketing advice, I'm creating more people who can afford me.
Right.
So it all pays off in the end, right? And so when I was in the room with them and I saw their enthusiasm and excitement, I followed up with them. I gave them some advice. Here's what I would do next. I invited them to some of our lower ticket items. So maybe you're not a good fit for the high end mastermind, but maybe you're a better fit for our more affordable coaching program. Or if you're not ready for that now, stay on our socials. We're going to be having this coming out. This is going to be on the podcast. This will be helpful for you, and invite them to a webinar. So there's always something to feed the funnel, even if they have to start back up towards the top of it because they're not ready for that high ticket sale.
That is what I believe too, Ginger. And that's why I've been such a huge advocate for companies to want to work with me or others to get a webinar program going, get their podcast off the ground, because it's a highly scalable, self-service, low-cost way to nurture the potentially hundreds, if not thousands of fans of yours who are just not cut out for the main thing that you're selling at the moment. They're just not ready, but they could be part of you can hold on to them in ways through scalable virtual events, low cost, no cost content and programming that is designed to pull people in and keep them in the machine, keep them rotated, coming back. And those people become referral sources. They become champions. They move on, they move up. And you and I have both seen that. You'd never know. And to have the gift of somebody's interest, let alone their trust, is one that we just can't let float away. And so many companies just go, well, we don't have anything for you. So sorry, maybe we'll see you next year. So I'm just a big fan of what you're saying. More companies should be thinking about, we're going to put on this big event, and then how are we going to keep people in touch with us and communing with us between now and the next big in-person event?
Let's take this somewhere that you weren't even expecting. You ready?
All right. I like that. Giddy up. Yeah, buckle up.
You talked about webinars.
Yes.
And I want to dive into this. And I don't know where this is going to go. Just full transparency there. So after the event, we did a webinar and I actually hosted it. And I'm going to tell you that when I had hosted this webinar, I was so uncomfortable. Like, I could shake hands all day in person. This was the first webinar that I was in charge of. And I was like, I'm going to mess up. I'm going to do terrible. I was able to actually close a couple of people on the webinar. Don't know how. Not sure how I did that. What would you tell somebody who is wanting to do a webinar, but they are really afraid? Yeah. How would you get them past that roadblock?
Like many things that we're afraid of, our focus is in the wrong place, likely, and on the wrong person, which is ourselves and our business. How's this going to make me feel? How's this going to make my business come off? When really your safest bet to overcome your fear, your safest bet to ensure success is to focus entirely on the audience. What do they want? What do they need? Can I show them that I care? Can I show them that I'm trying? Can I give them evidence I want to serve them in a continual way, yet another way that I want to keep this going? That's, to me, like you talked about with the data, like that's the right focus. Let's look at the audience. Let's look out, not look at us. And if you do that, then you say, well, naturally, these people came to my event. It would only be appropriate to follow up with them and create some sort of rallying point. It would only be appropriate to harness. I've often said the event itself was building the wave. Now we got a chance to surf. You're telling me you got all the way to the top of the wave, you're just going to go, and just fall back? No, we're up here now. We have everybody's attention. We are at the pinnacle of authority and goodwill. Let's give them something, anything. And the post-event webinar writes itself. You've got this, you just did it. You have all the clips, you have all the excitement, you have everybody, you still have the attention of even the speakers and the sponsors you brought in and stuff like that. You've got audience quotes and anecdotes. You've got the sales team excited. You've got reflections that are the top of mind for anybody who was there or helped organize it. You've got even stats and outcomes as to maybe if it's worth sharing, who came, who bought, how much did the community grow. That's all things we should be talking about. Perhaps even recognizing and giving awards to certain people, maybe playing clips, like you said, if you were filming people at the event, what were the reflections? Let's hyper edit that and get a little like a highlight recap reel that will premiere during the follow-up. So one thing I've said is think about the audience. We're doing this for them. Don't be thinking about yourself. 2, what do we say? What are we going to do? Simply recap it, because some people who were there didn't catch everything. Some people couldn't make it, so they want to know what they missed. And also, we want to recognize and appreciate all the people who made it happen: sponsors, contributors, attendees, speakers, and so on, and give them another chance to create content and to get some goodwill. And of course, to drive home a call to action. Maybe you didn't drive home so hard at the event, or to tell them this is your last chance. We said it would be only open for a week that we do this. So this is the last day, the last chance, or the last week that we'll offer that. Just another chance to drive home that CTA. And if they're worried about the technology part of it, I just have trouble with that, because we're on with Zoom meetings now and so on. That's all we're really saying, is to put on at least a Zoom meeting.
Yep.
For most of the people who are trying to get started, a Zoom meeting can have over 250 people on it. You know how
Mm-hmm.
to set Zoom so it mutes everybody upon entry. You're good to go. Let's go ahead and get. Oh, but what if there's more than 250 people? That'll be a great problem to have. If you're going to have more than 250 people on the recap webinar for your event, call me. Okay,
I was going to say,
call me.
call
All right.
someone.
Yes.
Call Nick. Get an assist. You need
That
somebody
is
in the
all the
chat.
more reason that you should
Yes.
absolutely do it. If you're worried about bursting the Zoom meeting limits, then you absolutely should be doing an event. If you have
I'll
that
take
many
that as
people.
my problem.
Yeah,
I'll give you-
right.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that helps.
I love that. And you sparked something else that I would love to share as well for a webinar.
Please, go.
What a perfect time to answer all of the frequently asked questions you were getting at the event and in the emails that followed up.
Yes.
Answer those on that call. Any last minute hesitations, like that is your time. You have their full attention. Answer those questions then.
Bare minimum. Also, let's pile on that. Maybe, and I understand, like, first of all, best practices, if you've got an event and it's an annual event or some sort of cyclical ongoing event, the best time to sell those tickets is at the end of that event, right there at the event. Lots of folks just can't get there yet. We don't have the date. We don't have the venue. We just don't know. So maybe by the webinar, you could figure that out. And it's at least a chance to push forward. The new dates have now been confirmed. Early bird is open, or we're offering everybody here first dibs at the lowest price or something like that. So all the more reason. Oh, my friend, this has been awesome. So what advice would you give, Ginger, to folks who are like, I want two pieces of advice from you. Number one is for those folks who say, I have worked inside in content, in social media, in the SEO, like in helping our digital presence generate revenue for our business from a marketing or sales standpoint, or hopefully both. But Ginger, I've just never had, I've never gone out on my own. Both you and I have made those scary decisions, those high stakes decisions to go out. Like, what advice would you give them about timing or how they might think about it, knowing what, and I'll pile in as well with you. So you don't have to worry about it. But like, what would be our advice? You go first for those people who are wondering, I think I'd like to have a more content centric business of my own, a more marketing advisory centric business. What advice would you give them?
I know exactly what I would tell them. And I'm going to tell your viewers right now that you did not pay me to say this. Find a Nick. Honestly, having our relationship and being able to hop on calls and share struggles and needing ideas from each other, it is so motivating, because entrepreneurship is lonely. That's why I have a job. Quite transparently, it is lonely, and you need someone who understands, and you need a place where you can go and say, here's the struggles, I need help solving them.
Yes.
And so find you a Nick, find a friend who understands, somebody you can be completely transparent with, and just get started. There is no reason with the technology that we have and the flexibility that we have in today's world to not at least take a chance on yourself.
Well, those are both two great pieces of advice. So I'm not going to repeat them, other than I'd say I would absolutely advocate for what Ginger said, but right back at her. Make sure that you find people who fire you up, who you feel you can relate to remind you you're not crazy for believing in the things that you believe and thinking that it's worth building a business around. There are many people who overlap with your passion and what you're trying to do. I would definitely echo what you just said there. The other thing I might add is there was nothing stopping you from carving out your positioning or your thinking as to what you want to specialize in right now. Maybe it's completely contrary to the type of work you're doing now, what you might be considering wanting to specialize in, creating content around, advising around, marketing around. But nobody owns your LinkedIn profile. I know there's a few edge cases where companies are pretty aggressive about what you do or can't do on social media. For the vast majority of us, that's just not the case. So you have nothing stopping you, and I had nothing stopping me from more often getting in that publishing cadence. Because guess what? It's not going to automatically just come to you when you go out on your own, you hang out your own shingle. build the
Mhm.
muscle memory now. If it's going to, if you think it's going to feel less awkward when you're out on your own, still trying to articulate your positioning and so on, versus when you're employed, like guess again, figure it out now. Just begin, like Ginger said, and just start. There's nothing. You're not moonlighting to be talking about things you're passionate about on certain social media channels. So you might as well start publishing now in the most appropriate channel for you that you're comfortable with. Dig your well before you're thirsty.
And think about the people that need you. Don't
Yes.
think about all like, I got so hung up for many years on my family seeing me or my friends seeing me, and what would they think about me being online talking about social media and marketing and business, and I got so in my head about, like, what other people would think, I forgot the people that needed me to teach them.
Oh,
And, yeah, you gotta get out of your own way. That's our tagline for today.
yeah, your own way. And Ginger, what you said is so important that I can relate to is that I am so blessed that I have many successful and well-meaning friends who I spoke to, and I valued their advice, but I realized they weren't necessarily my target market. And so
Yeah,
talk to people like you said, I just want to underscore that. Talk to people who need you. Get advice from anybody who will talk to you, who you think is the type of person who would need you, because you may have many successful business friends or successful in certain areas, but they're not the ones who are going to pay you and hire you and who are going to need to be perceiving you in the right ways in order to do
yep,
business with you. So start with those people. My goodness. Why can't you buy those people coffee right now in what you're doing before you quit your day
yeah,
job? You know,
yep.
so Ginger, how can people reach you? You're accessible over LinkedIn. How do you like people to come to you if they want advice, ideas, maybe want to collaborate with you, work with you and stuff?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me through Nick as well or
Yes.
at havenstrategygroup.com.
That's right. Ginger and I are regularly masterminding and finding ways we can collaborate together. You want to work with me, contact Ginger. You want to work with Ginger, you can contact me. All good. And I'm also just as easily found on LinkedIn as well. So, folks, there you have it. Vision. We went from vision. We went to vibe. We laughed. We cried. We didn't cry, but I mean,
We
maybe
could have.
inside we
There
could
was a
have.
few moments, they were good.
Yeah. And this isn't the last we're going to see of Ginger Henderson. I wanted her to present her credentials to you folks on this episode, right? So we're a little bit more biz like, but we're going to have Ginger back for a lightning round, Ginger. I think that's what we need to do is we're going to, we'll let our hair down a bit more hypothetically. Well, for you literally, for me, hypothetically. And
Comparison online.
we're going to talk a little bit more about just like content culture, a little bit nerd culture and stuff like those types of things also that we vibe around.
Let's nerd out together.
All right, stay tuned for episode 2, folks. But I hope that Ginger's story of establishing a business, helping folks build an incredibly inspiring event that went to a vibe, got you inspired to do the same. And we hope to see you all on a future episode. Thanks so much again, Ginger.
Bye.